the light is being presented, and then we have the choice as to whether to accept that or not. But if we accept the light and the wisdom of Jehovah and going forth, then we'll be okay. If we decide instead that we're going to choose ourself, which is also another name for Satan, then we have to bear the consequences of that, whichever it may be. And so in dealing with how do we get from a social order that has poverty and all the pain and the suffering that's there, and all the ills that are in the social order that need not be there. They need not be there, because we can look at Jehovah's kingdom and know from Jehovah's kingdom how we can live, how it's possible that we can live this way. But this isn't just, we don't just have to look up to heaven for this. We can look in our own corporeal history, because we had peoples in the past who have lived in community, who have successfully lived without man's laws per se, or at the most, or a minimum, and very minimum at that. And these minimums are, such as, for example, the 10 Commandments of Moses that was given through Moses. But Moses wasn't the only one through whom commandments were given. There were other great leaders forth who were under the inspiration of Jehovah and his kingdom, who gave these commandments or guidelines to help people to know which way to go, which is right and what is right and what is not right. And right it means righteousness, what is righteous and what isn't righteous. This is not meant to be a discourse on what is righteous and what isn't righteous and how to be righteous and all that. We're given ample in the past and in Oahspe how to proceed, and we mentioned in the past already about the faithist discipline with the vegan diet and the daily bathing, separating ourselves from the dominion of the beast, doing good works. And doing good works, and what's good works, and that's why we tune into Jehovah. That's why we want to become one with Jehovah, because by binding ourselves to Jehovah, because we have to bind ourselves to someone. We either bind ourselves to ourself within, or to the self of another, or to an institution, or to an idea, or we bind ourselves first and foremost to Jehovah, to the all-person, to the creator of the universe, to the ever-present I am. That I am. That I am, that we perceive as the all-highest. That I am. So that's what they said, like in the Hindus, for example. I am. That I am. That I am. The all-highest I am. I am that all-highest I am. That's who I identify with first and foremost. That's a teaching that came through the Vindu people for India and that region, essentially. And the Chinese had similar, and here in America, Gautama, we had similar teachings. And so it's been everywhere around the world. So we know all this, we just have to apply it. We can look at righteousness, and this is the objectification of the test, of the uga that's up above it. It's its objectification, even as the uga is the objectification of the O, just as man is the objectification of the A. And same too is the objectification of Gan. So we have this tuoi, this righteousness. That's how the prophet who is bound to the wheel, the uga, how he gets released. He gets released through the righteousness, through righteousness. By the prophet's closeness to righteousness. that's what will release them. That is what will release anyone from the wheel that's lashed to the wheel, that's bound to self, that's bound to the conditions of the world, and yet we can be released from that, from the pain and suffering from it, and ultimately be released from self, as we talked about in the past in these series of videos. So it's the righteousness then that's significant, in as much as it's essentially, on the highest aspect, is Jehovah's judgment as to what is right and what is wrong. So where do we go from there? Well, we go to number 25, which is the Tufong. Tufong is the carpenter square. We might say it's a measure of righteousness. Okay, we have the righteousness, and we can measure that righteousness. Now, a carpenter square, carpenters use it, for example, for determining the pitch of a roof. So that's like a practical application, and that's one of the things that man was taught. Initially, man was taught. He taught how to measure, essentially, how to measure squareness, how to attain to the squareness. And we know, and the ancients know this, the 3, 4, 5 triangle. That's how you can measure righteousness, geometrically speaking, because the one leg will be 3 units, the other leg you set it at 4 units, and then the hypotenuse between the two, the slant between the two, will have to be 5 units. 3, 4, 5. I won't go into the mathematics as to why that's so, but it is so, and it can be proven in many different ways, geometrically and algebraically. But the point being that you can tell if something is square or not by using the 3, 4, 5, and if it lines up that way, then we know it's square. So that's this carpenter square. This Tufong is the lower or an outer manifestation of the Tufong. And the Tufong is a measure of righteousness. So that we can perceive righteousness, and then we can measure how close is the righteousness to true righteousness? How close is it to Jehovah? Because Jehovah allows leeway. He allows some slant. He allows some give, some slack of the rope. And that's actually found in number 26. So 26 is, okay, from 25 we know that there's some we can measure righteousness, so we know that there are levels of righteousness, how close something is. And that's what grades are. When we grade things, how close is it toward perfection? How close is it toward righteousness, essentially? And 26 then represents the cosmos of the same two. 23, 24, 25, 26. That's the fourth one of the same two. And it represents the synthesis of the tuai, of the fuai.